It was at Rome, during the carnival, that I attended a masquerade in the palazzo of the Neapolitan Duke de Broglio. I had indulged more freely than the usual in the excesses of the wine table, and now the suffocating atmosphere of the crowded rooms irritated me beyond endurance. The difficulty, too, in forcing my way through the mazes of the company contributed not to a little the ruffling of my temper. For I was anxiously seeking, let me not say with what unworthy motive, the young, the gay, the beautiful wife of the aged and doting de Broglio. With a too unscrupulous confidence, she had previously communicated to me the secret of the costume in which she would be habited, and now, having caught a glimpse of her person, I was hurrying to make my way into her presence. At this moment I felt a light hand placed upon my shoulder, and an ever-remembered low, damnable whisper within my ear. In an absolute frenzy of wrath, I turned at once upon him who had thus interrupted me, and seized him violently by the collar. He was attired, as I had expected, in a costume altogether similar to my own. He was wearing a Spanish cloak of blue velvet, begirt about the waist with a crimson belt sustaining a rapier. A mask of black silk entirely covered his face. "Scoundrel," I said in a voice husky with rage, while every syllable I uttered seemed as new fuel to my fury. "Scoundrel, impostor, accursed villain, you shall not dog me until death. Follow me, or I stab you where you stand." And I broke my way from the ballroom into the small antechamber adjoining, dragging him unresistingly with me as I went. Upon entering, I thrust him furiously from me. He staggered against the wall, while I closed the door with an oath, and commanded him to draw. He hesitated but for an instant, then with a slight sigh drew in silence and put himself upon his defense. The contest was brief indeed. I was frantic with every species of wild excitement, and felt within my single arm the energy and power of multitude. In a few seconds I forced him by sheer strength against his wainscoting, and thus getting him at mercy, plunged my sword with brute ferocity repeatedly through and through his bosom. At that instant some person tried to latch the door. I hastened to prevent an intrusion, and then immediately returned to my dying antagonist. But what human language can adequately portray that astonishment, that horror which possessed me at the spectacle that then presented to view? The brief moment in which I averted my eyes had been sufficient to produce, apparently, a material change in the arrangements at the upper or the farther end of the room. A large mirror. So at first it seemed to me in my confusion now stood where none had been perceptible before. As I stepped up to it in an extremity of terror, mine own image, but with features all pale and dabbled in blood, advanced to meet me with a feeble and tottered gait. Thus it appeared, I say, but was not. It was my antagonist. It was Wilson who then stood before me in the agonies of his dissolution. His mask and cloak lay where he had thrown them upon the floor, not a thread in its raiment, in all his raiment. Not a line in all the marked and singular lineaments of his face which was not even in the most absolute identity mine own. It was Wilson, but he spoke no longer a whisper, and I could have fancied that I myself was speaking while he said, "You have conquered, and I yield. Yet henceforward art thou also dead." Dead to the world, to heaven and to hope. In me didst thou exist. And in my death, see by this image which is thine own. How utterly thou hast murdered thyself.